Why can't you just be like him? He would never do this to me. Why are you like this?
She said it so casually, like it wasn't a knife twisting in my gut. Why can't you be more like Bethany's husband? We were at the dinner table. I'd paid for the groceries, cooked half the meal, and come home tired but hopeful, just like every other day. She didn't even look up from her phone, just kept scrolling through pictures of Bethany's perfect life. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't fight back. I just looked at her and said, "Then marry him." She laughed at first, thinking it was a joke. Then she saw my face. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she said. "I'm just saying Trevor actually tries. He plans trips. He surprises her. He rebuilt their deck with his own hands." I just nodded slowly. "You mean the guy you bring up every single week?" She got irritated. "Why are you like this? You just exist, Mitchell. You don't do anything special?" That one word stuck with me. Exist, like I was a piece of furniture. Useful, but completely invisible. I stood up, took my plate to the sink, washed it, and went upstairs. Her voice followed me, shifting from annoyed to defensive, then to that fake apologetic tone I knew so well. I closed my office door and just sat there in the dark. That was the night I stopped reacting and started deciding. I didn't sleep, not because I was angry, but because everything was suddenly crystal clear. I opened the safe she never even knew I had and pulled out the documents I'd been organizing for months, without ever admitting to myself why. Business records, bank statements, and the prenup her father insisted on years ago, the one she'd laughed about and forgotten. Just before dawn, I wrote a letter. It wasn't emotional or cruel. It was just honest. By the time the sun came up, my bags were in the truck. I placed the letter on the kitchen counter, right where she made her coffee every morning. I slid my wedding ring off and set it right on top of the letter. It came off easier than I expected. I stood there for a moment, waiting for a wave of regret, but all I felt was relief. I drove away without a sound, no slammed doors, no dramatic exit. Just space opening up in my chest with every mile that passed. An hour later, my phone started ringing. I was already halfway to another state. I didn't answer. I just turned the phone off and kept driving. By noon, she was calling everyone my sister, my mother, my business partner looking for someone to tell her this was just a mood that I'd cool down and come back. No one gave her that comfort. When she went to the bank, reality hit. Our joint account had been divided exactly as the prenup allowed. The credit cards were closed. The lifestyle she took for granted was suddenly very expensive without my name attached to it. For the first time in 22 years, she went to my workshop, her heels clicking awkwardly on the concrete. She asked for me like I was an employee who'd stepped out for lunch. My partner told her I was on extended leave and all company matters now went through our lawyer. That was the moment she realized she never actually knew me. To her friends, I was just a welder. She never bothered to mention I owned the business, or the investments, or the quiet way I built a stable life while she was busy comparing me to men who performed success instead of actually living it. And speaking of that, the man she held up as the gold standard, his life was unraveling. 2 weeks later, Bethany called her in tears. The deck Trevor was building was half finished because he ran out of money. The trips were all paid for with debt. The perfect life was collapsing under a mountain of credit cards and lies. And Trevor, it turned out, wasn't faithful either. None of that fixed anything for us, of course. By the time the legal papers arrived, my absence was no longer a shock. It was permanent. She tried to see me once, showing up at my mother's house. My mom listened quietly and then said something so simple. "You spent years telling my son he wasn't enough. He finally believed you and he left. She never came back. Out where I'd gone, life was quiet, honest, no more comparisons, no more scorekeeping. I started working with my hands again, fixing up a cabin I'd bought months before. The one she never knew existed because she never asked about my plans unless they benefited her. For the first time in years, I slept without that heavy tension in my chest. Months later, I heard she sold the house and moved away. I hope she learned something from it all. Not for me, but for whoever came next. As for me, I stopped just existing and finally started living. Not louder, not flashier. Just finally, unmistakably as myself. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more.